Welcome back once more. This is Sunday edition, Kenya's only and premier Sunday morning political show where we dissect the biggest political and governance issues. There's a lot of views and opinions on social media, especially on Twitter. Let me just take a look at some of them very quickly. And R. Malel says, Constitution talks of election happening in all the 290 constituencies. Now NASA will claim there was no election. And one here says, Nyakona Omenge says, the honorable member just admitted that he's new in the house. Can we excuse him? One here from Newmood says, why do NASA survive on double standards? Defending the NASA position, and that is psychophancy. That is Newmoods on Twitter. And one here from some AFC who says, no, that I've already read that one. One here from Sule Nasser says, Kavemba and Honorable Rasa defending amendments that are not only unconstitutional, but the timing is also very suspect. And finally, one here, Nyakona says, Jubilee have a hidden agenda in pushing for the electoral laws at this time. Very many views on what we're discussing about, we're talking about. Let's now shift gears a bit and talk about a very important player of this electioneering process, and that is the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. They have been right at the center of it. Of course, NASA pushing for removal of some official of the IEBC, including the CEO of the Secretariat, Ezra Chiloba, who has said he is not going anywhere because he has not done anything wrong, and that has been vindicated. He has been vindicated by the Supreme Court ruling. So just what gives? Wafula Chebukati, chairman of the commission, has also been seemingly under a lot of pressure from both the political players and his commissioners. We have had reports of him being ruled out or a majority of his commissioners voting in a different voting differently from his position. Let's now listen to what he has had to say about those amendments to the electoral laws that have been pushed by Jubilee. He has maintained the stance that Kenya does not need new laws.
What I'm saying is that we don't need any more laws to give Kenyans an election on 26th of October. But if Parliament passes the laws, I've also said I hope those laws will not change the framework we have put in place, because if they do so, then they'll put us in a very precarious situation, because we have already set training manual.
National Super Alliance, on the other hand, of course, as you do know, is that they have been demanding for a reshaping of that IEBC as it is currently constituted. They insist that it is not constitutional.
The route that the Commission has set out, then it will be an election which is held within 60 days, but an election which will not be held in accordance with the Constitution, the applicable law, and the determination of the Supreme Court.
Gentlemen, the biggest question, one of the biggest questions Kenyans are asking themselves is what next, especially for IEBC, which they are looking up to carry out this repeated election. And of course, others have questions about it. The NASA supporters have questions that they want answered like their leaders. And they have some people they want kicked out of the IEBC. Jubilee have been saying, leave the IEBC to do its work. So it's right in the center of it all. Dismas, before we get into what next, is Wafula Chebukati a man under siege? Or does he have his commission under control?
Well, in my view, from the time we got into multi-party democracy and we started having commissions presiding over the elections, in my view, this is the weakest commission we've ever had. And Mr. Chebukati is the weakest chairman of a commission that we've ever had. He's got a lot of muscles, but for some reason, he doesn't want to flex his muscles. And Chebukati is behaving like a member of a civil society, which is poorly funded. He's a lawyer. He's gone through the Supreme Court judgment, and he's got the benefit of so many lawyers. He's been told there were many illegalities and irregularities. What stops him from addressing those two concerns so that we have a free, fair, and credible election? And then we've got a commission, which we told that is divided or has got divergent opinions. Ordinarily, a commission with divergent views is a very good idea. because there's a lot of cross-pollination, there are a lot of discussions, so as to give us a free, fair, and a credible election. But we are made to understand, and it's common knowledge, the members of the National Assembly, the two members of the National Assembly know it very well, that we have 4 commissioners who are standing on the space of status quo, and 2 commissioners, as well as the chairman, who are standing on the space of progress, who want to have a free and fair election. Now, the question that probably it's only these 2 members who can discuss it at the floor of the House, so one of that Honorable Nyamita will go to the House and discuss it, is to establish who is this person who is influencing conversations and positions at the IBC. Who is this person who is making the commissioners restless? When you look at the body language of Mr. Chebukati, he seems to be a man who is breaking into a sweat at all times. He's not sure of his position, despite the fact that he's got a security of tenure. It would be interesting if these 2 members of the National Assembly can actually tell us which are these cartels which are making the commissioners nervous, which are these cartels that are making somebody, the chairman of an independent commission, fail to discharge on his mandate.
All right. Mheshimiwa Barasa, what's your take on the IEBC? Is the job of IEBC commissioner, chairman, a poisoned chalice? In that, look at the last three commissions, Chebukati, Isaac Hassan, and the late Samuel Kivuitu. All of them have been... Is this that once you take this job, your goose is cooked, so to speak?
I think the time he began listening to various proponents of the side, either Jubilee and NASA, that's the time that on non-issues, issues that are not within the law, that's when he began to soak the commission in mud. His only engagement with the political parties should be on the level of compliance with the applicable laws, not on existing demands that are not within the law. He needs to lock himself in a room with his commissioners and his staffs, deliver these elections, only come out to address Kenyans or political parties on the level of preparedness in terms of compliance with the laws, specifically those sections that the Supreme Court said were not followed. That is the only time that he needs to listen to the Kenyans. He is a lawyer. He understands the law. Let him read the Elections Act. Let him read the Constitution. And the only people that he should be engaging maybe are lawyers to assist him, put in a framework that will ensure that the elections are going to be held with a strict compliance with the applicable laws.
All right. Mr. Nyamita, is Chebukati in control of this commission, given all that is happening and all the pressure this time?
I agree with Dismas Mokwa when he talks about this is the weakest chairman we've ever had.
But all chairmans have been bad, according to the three chairmans, according to NASA, ODM, and all that.
And with reasons. But I'm saying of all the others, I think he's actually a very weak one.
All right.
Let me tell you, by the simple fact that Chebukati forms a project team to administer an election is by itself an admission that the employees of IEBC, beginning from Ezra Chiloba and all the other officials, have failed in their mandate. As to why he continues to have them being in office is a big question. Because otherwise, then why do we have a CEO? Why do we have every other person heading those departments when himself? And this is even before NASA made the demands on the specific officials to be removed from IEBC. And we were only doing it based on the report that was actually presented in court. So one, Chebukati, by his admission, by action, when he sets up a different team to administer this, he has already admitted that, Chiloba and the rest have actually failed in their duty and they should actually exit. He should just be bold enough. If you remember the famous memo that he wrote to Chiloba, had very serious questions. The next thing we were seeing on telly was the deputy president answering that memo instead of Chiloba. And the DP came on record and said, that memo has already been responded to. So it was a DP or probably surrogates or any other person who was responding to that memo. It was on national TV when he did that. And after that, Chebukati has actually gone quiet. Today he's formed in. So what we expect to Chiloba is to just be man enough and say, so and so is unable to perform their duties as they should, and he should actually exit them. It's the simplest thing to do. But as of now, and why we are saying that he has just made little efforts that are not actually quite convincing, because there is no way you will have Chiloba sit at the back end. He is the one with a pen to sign for every single thing. He is the one who is accountable for every single action of the Secretariat. He's still sitting at the backdrop, and you tell us that now we have made changes, we have put in a project team. If he is not participating, he should exit that building, together with all the other officials who have been indicted by Chebukati himself. So actually, if you look at the demands for NASA, and you know, there's been a lot of misinformation around the demands for NASA. Look at Chebukati's memo. And Chebukati is speaking as a chairman of the commission, as a national returning officer, as someone who was in this petition, who knows and understands, and is also a lawyer who understands the issues that actually didn't, you know, the illegalities and the irregularities that were actually committed.
Yes.
He wrote a memo to Chiloba asking pertinent questions. The demands for NASA are actually just, you know, almost pushing for the implementation of the issues that he raised in the memo. So they're really nothing out of the blue. So when we are saying that, oh, we are pushing them too hard, I mean, they already identified themselves, those things internally. So Chebukati needs to be man enough, to actually do what he needs to do.
All right.
Yeah, and be his own man.
Mutinda, let me get your views.
No, IEBC should be left on its own to do their job, because they are an independent constitutional commission. And from the onset, I want to agree with Mheshimiwa Didmas that the problem they did is that they started looking outside themselves for the solution, yet the Supreme Court was very clear that the problem lies within IEBC, and it is IEBC to sort out that problem and conduct an election within 60 days as per the constitution and the laws of Kenya. Now, that is not what they did. Even what Mheshimiwa is repeatedly quoting here was one of the biggest mistakes by the chair, and not the writing of the memo, but the leaking of the memo, because that was trying to invite public sympathy at a time when the commission should have been focusing on building public confidence, so that you look like you are not to blame and someone else is to blame. That is not how to manage a commission when you're the head. Some of those things should have been dealt with internally, and by the time they take action on any of them, then it should be clear why action is being taken on any of the individuals.
All right.
So that it is not just about the demands by politicians, because demands by politicians will always be there, and if you start looking at satisfying that, you will lose focus on what your job is. So IEBC, and I repeat, should still focus on conducting the election. You know, the DPP has already gone a step further and written to the CID and the EACC to conduct their own investigation. In due time, whatever they will come up with then can be used as a basis for taking any action against those who will be found individually culpable. But as at now, instead of doing anything that will encourage the infighting among the commission, because, you know, you have to ask yourself, for those making demands about certain people to go, what is the basis of that? Because if it is the commission and the staff, why then, on what basis did you decide to pick on certain individuals and not the others? Right. If it is, for instance, NASA is calling for the CEO to go, you would ask yourself, why not the chairman? What is it they know that the CEO did?
So it's the meddling.
That is all meddling.
All
so
right.
Let them be left on their own, and besides that, let the other independent bodies that are in our constitution, the DPP, the police, the EACC,
right,
do their job, so that there is less politicization of their mandate.
Let's leave it there, but I'll give you, each of you 30 seconds only. A lot has been said about what IEBC need to do in terms of optics, in terms of the structural changes or reforms, but it has an election to prepare for in the next 17 days. In 30 seconds only, starting with you, Mutinda, what next? What do they do? How do they show the country where to go?
Yes, in my opinion, they should look at the rolling, look at the areas that they were incriminated of having done wrong,
Yeah.
in their own wisdom, see what might have led to that, and put in places mechanisms that will ensure that that is not repeated.
All right.
And of importance, communicate the same to the public so that we are on the same page. Let them be very candid that, yes, this is what went wrong. We believe this is what should have been done, and this is what we are doing to ensure that there is no repeat of the same mistakes going forward. If they do that,
thank you.
then
30 seconds are over.
Okay, thank you.
Nyamita?
For me, I think IEBC need to understand the mood of the country, that Kenyans actually want to be over and done with these elections. And the quicker they move in to level the playing ground, the better for this country. They need to stop listening to Jubilee and acting like Jubilee and being in bed with Jubilee. Chiloba and his team should pack and leave from office as soon as possible to save this country. Because in the absence of this, there will be no election.
All right, thank you. You are telling them what to do, and you've said they should not listen to what they should be told. But anyway,
They should listen to NASA, not Jubilee. That's what Mweshi said.
IEBC should stay put, encourage teamwork within their staff, and most importantly, they should document a checklist of what went wrong during the August elections and how they have changed the scenario in compliance with the law going forward, and they should only engage stakeholders based on that document. Otherwise, Kenyans look forward for them to deliver a credible elections on 26th of this month.
Thank you, Dismas.
Well, Ben, running this election is a walk in the park. It's probably the easiest thing because the Supreme Court has already told you this election was marred by illegalities and irregularities. Let him just establish the cure, get the medicine for those illegalities, irregularities. Then we go into an election. Kenya wants to celebrate a new beginning. Wanjiko is sick and tired of all these ulabalu between us and Jubilee. They want to go back to business.
All right. Thank you, Dismas Mokua, political risk analyst, member of parliament for Kimilili, Didmas Wekesa Barasa, and his counterparts in Uriri in the county of Migori. That is Mark Nyamita, and political strategist Mutinda Kamemba. That's why we leave it. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming in this morning to share your perspectives. It is 17 days to go to the repeat presidential election on the 26th of October. A lot is happening. Keep it KTN News to get the whole story and to get the most qualified analysis of Kenya's political and governance issues. Let's see you again next Sunday, same time, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we discuss these issues. I'm Ben Kitili. Bye for now. Let's leave you with our sound of the week.
Chebukati ni Muluya, na shangaa na Waluya wenzangu. Kama Mungu angejua singesaliwa Uluya. Abaluya mnataka kuua mtu wenyu every day, every now, every night. Na kuna watu wengine wanatetea mtu yao hata akiwa uji. Lazima wamfunike nguo. Hakuna mtu mwingine alimuona uchi.